Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of conditions that occur together, increasing your risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. These conditions include increased blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess body fat around the waist, and abnormal cholesterol or triglyceride levels. In this video, we'll explore how metabolic syndrome develops over time, what factors contribute to its progression, and why early intervention is crucial. Understanding the timeline and underlying mechanisms can help us make informed choices about our health and prevent serious complications down the road. Before diving into how metabolic syndrome develops, it's important to define what it is. Metabolic syndrome isn't a single disease, but rather a group of risk factors that often occur together. These include high blood pressure, elevated fasting glucose, central obesity, and abnormal lipid levels. When these factors are present together, they significantly raise the risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Recognizing the syndrome early can be a key step in preventing its progression. The development of metabolic syndrome often begins with the accumulation of risk factors in early adulthood. Poor dietary habits, lack of physical activity, genetic predisposition, and weight gain, especially around the abdomen, are common contributors. These factors may not cause immediate symptoms, but over time, they set the stage for metabolic changes that can lead to the syndrome. Early identification of these risks is essential for prevention. One of the earliest physiological changes in the development of metabolic syndrome is insulin resistance. This means the body's cells become less responsive to insulin, a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar. As a result, the pancreas produces more insulin to compensate, but over time, this compensation fails. Insulin resistance is closely linked to obesity, especially visceral fat, and is a key driver of the syndrome's progression. As insulin resistance develops, it often leads to further weight gain, particularly around the abdomen. Central obesity is a hallmark of metabolic syndrome and is associated with increased inflammation and hormonal changes that worsen insulin resistance. This creates a vicious cycle where weight gain and insulin resistance feed into each other, accelerating the progression of the syndrome. As metabolic syndrome progresses, elevated blood pressure often emerges. Insulin resistance and obesity contribute to changes in blood vessel function and increased sodium retention, both of which raise blood pressure. High blood pressure is a major risk factor for heart disease and stroke, making its early detection and management vital in those at risk for metabolic syndrome. Another key feature of metabolic syndrome is dyslipidemia, which refers to abnormal levels of lipids in the blood. Typically, this means higher triglycerides and lower HDL, good cholesterol. These changes are driven by insulin resistance and central obesity, and they further increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. Monitoring lipid levels is an important part of managing metabolic syndrome. As insulin resistance worsens, blood sugar levels begin to rise. Initially, the pancreas can compensate by producing more insulin, but over time, this ability diminishes. Elevated fasting glucose is a defining feature of metabolic syndrome and signals an increased risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Regular monitoring of blood sugar is crucial for early detection and intervention. Chronic low-grade inflammation is a common thread in the development of metabolic syndrome. Excess fat tissue, especially around the abdomen, releases inflammatory molecules that disrupt normal metabolism. This inflammation contributes to insulin resistance, blood vessel dysfunction, and further progression of the syndrome. Addressing inflammation through lifestyle changes can help slow the syndrome's development. As metabolic syndrome develops, hormonal imbalances become more pronounced. Adipose tissue, especially visceral fat, acts as an endocrine organ, releasing hormones that affect appetite, metabolism, and inflammation. These hormonal changes further disrupt glucose and lipid metabolism, making it harder for the body to maintain balance and increasing the risk of complications. Genetics play a significant role in the development of metabolic syndrome. Some individuals are more susceptible due to inherited traits that affect how their bodies process fats, sugars, and respond to insulin. While lifestyle factors are critical, understanding one's genetic risk can help guide prevention and early intervention strategies. Lifestyle choices are major contributors to the onset and progression of metabolic syndrome. Diets high in processed foods, sugars, and unhealthy fats, combined with sedentary habits, accelerate the development of risk factors. Smoking and excessive alcohol intake also play a role. Making healthier choices can significantly reduce the risk of developing metabolic syndrome. Age is another important factor in the development of metabolic syndrome. As people grow older, their risk increases due to changes in metabolism, hormone levels, and body composition. Even if someone is healthy in youth, risk factors can accumulate over time, making regular health checks increasingly important as we age. The progression of metabolic syndrome is gradual. often taking years or even decades. It typically starts with subtle changes like mild weight gain and slightly elevated blood pressure or blood sugar. Over time, these changes become more pronounced, eventually meeting the criteria for metabolic syndrome. Early intervention can halt or even reverse this progression. Some early warning signs of metabolic syndrome include increased waist circumference, mild hypertension, and slightly elevated fasting glucose. These signs may not cause noticeable symptoms, but they indicate that metabolic changes are underway. Regular screening and awareness of these early markers are essential for timely intervention. Metabolic syndrome often creates a vicious cycle. Insulin resistance leads to weight gain, which in turn worsens insulin resistance. Elevated blood pressure and abnormal lipid levels further complicate the picture. Breaking this cycle requires a combination of lifestyle changes and, in some cases, medication. As metabolic syndrome progresses, it damages blood vessels through chronic inflammation and high blood pressure. This damage increases the risk of atherosclerosis, where arteries become narrowed and hardened. Over time, this can lead to heart attacks, strokes, and other serious complications. If left unchecked, metabolic syndrome can progress to type 2 diabetes. As insulin resistance worsens and the pancreas can no longer keep up, blood sugar levels rise to diabetic levels. Type 2 diabetes brings its own set of complications, including nerve damage, kidney disease, and vision problems. The combination of high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, and chronic inflammation dramatically increases the risk of cardiovascular events. Heart attacks and strokes become more likely as metabolic syndrome advances. This is why early detection and management are so important for long-term health. Metabolic syndrome is closely linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. Excess fat accumulates in the liver, leading to inflammation and, in some cases, liver damage. NAFLD can progress to more serious liver conditions if metabolic syndrome is not addressed. The kidneys are also affected by metabolic syndrome. High blood pressure and elevated blood sugar can damage the delicate filtering units of the kidneys, leading to chronic kidney disease over time. Protecting kidney health is another reason to address metabolic syndrome early. Poor sleep quality and sleep disorders, such as sleep apnea, are both risk factors for and consequences of metabolic syndrome. Sleep disturbances can worsen insulin resistance, increase appetite, and contribute to weight gain, creating another feedback loop that accelerates the syndrome's progression. Metabolic syndrome can affect both men and women, but certain risk factors and outcomes may differ by gender. For example, women with metabolic syndrome are at higher risk for certain complications, such as polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, while men may experience more pronounced cardiovascular risks. Understanding these differences can help tailor prevention and treatment strategies. Ethnicity and cultural background can influence the risk and progression of metabolic syndrome. Some populations are genetically predisposed, while cultural dietary habits and lifestyle factors also play a role. Recognizing these influences is important for effective prevention and management. Socioeconomic status can impact the development of metabolic syndrome. Limited access to healthy foods, safe places to exercise, and healthcare resources can increase risk. Addressing these social determinants is key to reducing the burden of metabolic syndrome in communities. Chronic stress is another factor that can accelerate the development of metabolic syndrome. Stress hormones like cortisol can increase appetite, promote fat storage, and worsen insulin resistance. Managing stress through mindfulness, exercise, and social support can help reduce risk. Regular physical activity is one of the most effective ways to prevent and manage metabolic syndrome. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity, helps control weight, and reduces blood pressure and lipid abnormalities. Even moderate increases in activity can have significant benefits. Diet plays a central role in the development and management of metabolic syndrome. Diets rich in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats can help prevent and reverse risk factors. Conversely, diets high in processed foods, sugars, and saturated fats accelerate the syndrome's progression. Both excessive alcohol consumption and smoking are linked to the development and worsening of metabolic syndrome. Alcohol can increase blood pressure and triglycerides, while smoking worsens inflammation and blood vessel damage. Reducing or eliminating these habits is crucial for prevention. In some cases, lifestyle changes alone may not be enough to control metabolic syndrome. Medications to lower blood pressure, improve lipid levels, and control blood sugar may be necessary. Working closely with healthcare providers ensures the best outcomes and helps prevent complications. Regular monitoring of blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, and waist circumference is essential for tracking the progression of metabolic syndrome. Early detection of changes allows for timely adjustments in lifestyle or medication, helping to prevent complications. The good news is that metabolic syndrome can often be reversed, especially if caught early. Weight loss, increased physical activity, and dietary changes can restore normal metabolism and reduce risk factors. Even small improvements can have a big impact on long-term health. If left unmanaged, metabolic syndrome can lead to serious long-term complications. These include heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, kidney failure, and liver disease. The cumulative effect of multiple risk factors makes these outcomes more likely, highlighting the importance of early and ongoing management. Metabolic syndrome is not just an adult problem. Increasing rates of childhood obesity mean that more children and adolescents are developing risk factors at a young age. Early intervention in youth is critical to prevent lifelong health problems. The rising prevalence of metabolic syndrome has significant public health implications. It places a heavy burden on healthcare systems and increases the incidence of chronic diseases. Public health initiatives focused on education, prevention, and access to healthy resources are essential to combat this growing problem. Community-based programs that promote healthy eating, physical activity, and regular health screenings can help prevent metabolic syndrome. These programs are especially important in underserved areas where risk factors are more prevalent. Community engagement is key to long-term success. Workplaces can play a role in preventing metabolic syndrome by offering wellness programs, healthy food options, and opportunities for physical activity. Encouraging employees to take breaks, move regularly, and manage stress can make a significant difference in long-term health outcomes. Advances in technology have made it easier to monitor health markers related to metabolic syndrome. Wearable devices, health apps, and telemedicine can help individuals track their progress and stay motivated. These tools also facilitate communication with healthcare providers. Having the support of family and friends can make a big difference in managing metabolic syndrome. Social support encourages healthy behaviors, provides motivation, and helps individuals stick to lifestyle changes. Involving loved ones in the journey can improve outcomes for everyone. Despite knowing the risks, many people face barriers to making healthy changes. These can include lack of time, resources, motivation, or knowledge. Addressing these barriers through education, support, and accessible resources is essential for effective prevention and management. Education is a powerful tool in the fight against metabolic syndrome. Understanding the risks, recognizing early signs, and knowing how to make healthy choices empowers individuals to take control of their health. Public health campaigns and school programs can help spread this vital information. Ongoing research is shedding light on the complex mechanisms behind metabolic syndrome. Scientists are exploring new treatments, genetic factors, and ways to personalize prevention strategies. Staying informed about these advances can help individuals and healthcare providers make better decisions. To summarize, metabolic syndrome develops gradually over time, starting with subtle changes and progressing to more serious health risks. Early identification and intervention are key to preventing complications. By understanding the timeline and risk factors, we can take proactive steps to protect our health. If you or someone you know is at risk for metabolic syndrome, now is the time to take action. Small changes in diet, activity, and stress management can have a big impact. Partnering with healthcare providers and leveraging support systems can help ensure long-term success and better health outcomes. Metabolic syndrome is a serious but manageable condition. With awareness, education, and proactive lifestyle changes, it's possible to prevent or even reverse its progression. By taking steps today, we can look forward to a healthier future for ourselves and our communities.